If you have a question, I want you to ask the question. I don't want you to feel like any question is dumb, because it's not. On these contracts, it's really important that you get the contracts right. Anything that has to do with the brokerage, like it's a contract, a listing contract that's between you and just your customer, and it goes to the brokerage, that's not too bad, because we can go back and we can fix it after the fact. But if it's going to another agency or another agent, the documents that get filed with the county, you have to make sure that those are correct. So for the new agents with 7 transactions or under, before you send out any documents to your client to sign, you need to send either myself or Chad a copy of the document, so we can tell you, yeah, this is right, or no, this is not right. You make the changes and then send it back to us so we can look at it again, and we'll explain the contract over and over to you, because it'll take more than one time for you to understand it. So so please, again, feel free to stop me anytime during this, and we're probably only going to get through maybe the first 2 pages of the resale contract, because it's really detailed. So this will probably be like a 4-part series, because there is a lot. Even though it's kind of basic, there's still a lot of individual components that you need to know when you're doing the contract. Okay, so we're going to start, and I wrote down a lot of notes because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything anything for y'all. Okay, so the first part. Okay, so when do you use the 1-to-4 family residential contract? This is the one that you're going to use the most. It's the basic TREC contract. So TREC stands for Texas Real Estate Commission. A lot of this you learned in real estate school, and you know, really the classes taught you nothing about being a realtor. You're going to learn about being a realtor now with us through the training. So TREC puts out forms. TAR, which is Texas Association of Realtors, puts out forms, and HAR, Houston Association of Realtors, put out forms. You guys have access to all these forms. You know, you can use like TREC has a 1-to-4. You're going to have 2 versions of contracts, and you can use either version. TREC is the pretty standard. You're going to have TAR's version, and then you'll have TREC's version. So you'll have a couple of versions, but you know, we'll guide you as that goes along. For this contract, this is the resale. So you're going to use it when you have a single family residence, when you have a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex. That's when you use this contract. You do not use it for an undeveloped piece of land. You do not use it for commercial. You know what? I'm going to hide these remotes again. Hold on. Play video panel. Okay. You do not use it for commercial. You do not use it for farm and ranch. You do not use it for lease, and you do not use it for condo. They all have separate contracts. So when you're dealing with a single family, duplex, triplex, or quadplex, you're going to use this contract. The first part, oh wait, I had more. Oh, on this, you want to be comfortable with this contract. You have to know more than your client. So make sure you read this and you know this contract inside and out, because they're going to ask you questions. And this is what they're paying you for. They're paying you to be the expert. And when they ask you, hey, you know, what's a title policy? You need to be able to tell them what a title policy is. And if you don't know, please ask. You know, if we're not explaining it or if you forget, you know, ask. Stop me at any time, because I would rather you ask a question now than get in front of a client and not know the answer. But if you do get in front of a client and you don't know the answer, just tell them, you know what, let me check into that and I'll get back with you. You know, let me verify the information and I'll get back with you. You know, don't just say, make something up or anything like that. You want to just say, hey, let me verify and I'll get back with you. Okay, so when you get to a closing, all of this goes with the contract. So your job is to negotiate the terms with the other party. And what's really bad to do is get caught up in the negotiation process. Your job is to get to closing with your client's best interest in mind. Invalid meeting ID. Okay. Let me try this one more time. Oh, that is an invalid. Let me get participants invite. One second, guys. We are taking a pause. I'm trying to send somebody a meeting, the meeting link right now. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll start right back up in just a second. Okay, so we got it going. Oh, and that's not where we were. Okay, the 1 to 4. So I was at the negotiation process. So even before you start on the contract, your job is to get to close. And a lot of times realtors will get invested in the negotiation process and feel like they have to win, and you can make your client lose out. And realtors have a lot of sway when it comes to convincing their client or not convincing their client to take a property, which I didn't realize until I became a realtor. They rely on you heavily. And if you get an attitude with the other realtor and, there's just a bad vibe, you get like in this headstrong with another realtor, you can lose that property for your client. So just keep it not personal. Keep it, you got to take yourself out of it. It's all business. It's not about winning. You both win. Your client wins when they get the property and you win when you get to closing. So that's the key. Remember that. So the negotiation process is, there we go. I think everybody's in, is part of the negotiation process is part of the contract, even when you get to the contract. Okay, and when you're doing a contract, you want to make sure it is complete as possible. If you represent the buyer and you're writing up this contract to send to the seller, you want to have every single block filled out. So the contract's 9 pages, and the 9th page is going to be used for receipts. The title company will receipt in the option, they'll receipt in the earnest money, they'll receipt in the contract, and then this is where you receipt in the option fee. So you won't do anything to page 9. page 8. When you submit the contract to, well, no, it's 10. So this is page 9. When you submit the contract to the other agent, you want to have all of your broker's information filled out, and you want to have all the others broker's information filled out. You want to have it as complete as possible, because if you make it super easy for the other agent to just submit it to their client and for their client to sign without making any changes, it's going to be better for you and it's going to be better for your client. Because if they have to, so if you submitted this contract over now as is, and the broker has to fill in all this information, they're going to make changes because they already have to change this part. So they're going to go ahead and change the contract, and they're going to say, no, my client wants you to pay for the title policy, or my client wants your client to pay for the title policy. You know, so if it's already filled out and all the realtor does is, hey, it's, you know, other than the title policy, they're asking you to pay for it, everything else is good to go. All you got to do is sign it. You might get your client, you might save them $600 or $700 from the title policy, paying the title policy, and you'll get a signed contract. So have it filled out as much as possible. So for the more established agents, you know, if y'all hear anything that you want to add in on one of these parts that I'm explaining, please feel free to add in. So we're still on number 1, and I was telling everybody that this is probably going to be a 4 to 5 part series, because I like to keep these meetings down to 30 minutes, and we'll probably just get through the first page today. So for the parties, you're representing the buyer. You want to have their legal names. You don't want to use a nickname. This is a good time to, you know, find out if it's going to be in a company's name. If it's in a company's name, the purchase is in a company's name, you need to make sure they have the articles of incorporation. You know, the title company's going to ask for that. So this, up front, if you ask all this and have your client get this information together before it gets to close, you know, it's going to save you a lot of time from having to do an amendment, because your client can't find the articles of incorporation, and so you have to extend the closing. And so if a company's buying a property or selling a property, make sure they have the articles of incorporation. If 2 or 3 people are on it, make sure everybody's going to be available to sign on that day, or if you're going to have to do powers of attorneys, that way you can have the powers of attorneys, power of attorney regular. You want to put their first and last name. So if it's Mr. or Mrs. Smith, you know, you can really put Don and Jane Doe Smith, but it's better to put Jane Doe Smith and Don Michael Smith. You know, use their full legal names, and make sure that their legal names matches their driver's license. If it's a married person and one spouse is deceased, you need to ask them, hey, has the will been probated? If the will has not been probated, either they need to probate it, or you need to start working on heirship affidavits. You know, the heirship affidavits can take a long time, because if the spouse had like 4 kids, each one of those kids has to fill out an heirship affidavit, and it has to be notarized. And then if one of those kids dies, and I've had this happen, you know, it's like it was 3 trusts was owned. This one property was in the name of 3 different trusts. And 2 of the trusts, you know, parties had died in both of the trusts. So it took forever. It took a year to close this one property, and it was crazy. So if a spouse has died, you want to make sure the will's been probated, and you want to bring all this up to the title company. The title company will take care of the power of attorneys. They'll take care of the heirship affidavit. They'll take care of making sure the corporation documents are all there. But you want to do this in the pre-interview process when you're talking to your client, filling out this contract, so you can get all that information to the title company. And also, you can have like an assignment. You can have like the buyer is going to be Mindy Flint or assignee. You know, an assignee means that, hey, Mindy's putting the contract, she's putting down this, but she is going to maybe sell this contract or do something else, put this contract in somebody else's name. So you can have like their first, last name and or assignee. So that's going to be for number 1. Oh, and make sure if it's like a junior, senior, the third, you want to use their full legal names. And you can get that from the other agent. So if you're writing the contract, if you're representing the buyer and you want to call this seller and you want to say, hey, you know, what's the legal names? Because you want to make sure this contract is filled out as completely as possible. So this is a contract that I pulled up, and it's got some stuff filled out. So I blacked out the buyer and seller's name. The second part is the legal description. You can find the legal description on Realist. Let's see. You know what? I should have had Realist pulled up for y'all. I'll just pull one up really quick. So this is a standard listing. This is a legal description right here. If they don't have it on the listing, you want to click on the tax account number. That will take you to Realist. And Realist should have right here the legal description. So you want to put and you'll see 2 types of legal descriptions. You'll see lot and block, and you'll see meets and bounds. Meets and bounds is a lot older, so there's not a lot of those around. It's mostly going to be lot and block. So you would put the lot, block, and then that would be the rest of the legal description. So it would have been lot 45, block 2, Villages of Langham Creek, section 7 is what I would put in there. And then it's the address. So for the improvements, this is saying that anything permanently attached to the house conveys with the property. So that means, you know, if it's nailed into the wall, it stays. If you have a mounted TV, the mount stays, the TV does not. You know, ceiling fans, what else? It says mailboxes, television antennas. I mean, this kind of really names everything. Standard, a refrigerator does not stay. Washer and dryers do not stay. All the other appliances do if they're built in, like a built-in microwave, it stays. One that sits on the counter, it does not stay. So anything attached stays. This in the C tells you what else is considered, what else stays. So like an air conditioner unit stays, fireplace screens, curtains, curtain rods, window blinds, shades, garage door openers, gate openers, keys, mailbox keys, they all convey with the property. If your client wants to keep something that means a lot to them, so they have a like grandma's chandelier, you know, I tell all my customers or all my clients to take the chandelier down before you put it on the market. Take the Ring doorbell off. If you want the Ring doorbell, take it off. If you, you know, want to keep the tree in the front yard, you can't like take that out, but you can put that in exclusion. But what they want to keep, it's best to just take it out before the showing. It's just a lot easier that way. For the exclusions, they can exclude anything they want. You know, if they want to exclude like a palm tree or rose bushes or, you know, grandma's chandelier, that's what you put here. You can check the listing. Sometimes the listing has on there what's excluded, what is not going to convey with the property. So be sure and check the listing, but never leave this blank. You don't want to have any blanks in the contract. You want to have them everything filled in with an NA if it's not applicable, or something else, but you don't want to have any blanks. So, and you will get asked too, what about mineral rights? Mineral rights convey with the property. There is a mineral rights form if one of your buyers or sellers want to retain the form. We don't know who has mineral rights. You can't advise anybody who has mineral rights. You need to tell your client that they would need to get a landman, is what they're called, landman, and have them research it. But mineral rights do convey with the property. That's number E. So are there any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, you talked about signee in the event of maybe a property owner is not present. So what will happen for the payment at closing? So the check will be written to the owner or the signees?
So the check is going to go to the title company.
Right.
So that everything is written out to the title company because they are handling the financial part of it. And so it would be written out to the title company. But when you said dependents, are you talking about like if a power of attorney where somebody couldn't be there, or an assignee where they're going to assign the contract like to somebody else?
Power of attorney. Power of attorney.
A power of attorney. Yeah. The title company will make the check out to whoever the transaction, the names on the transaction. So it doesn't matter who the power of attorney is. That's just saying like John Smith is given Jimmy Bob the authority to sign his name on this real estate contract. And it would probably be a limited power of attorney, which just gives him right to sign his name solely on this contract.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So for the sales cash price, the first part is the down payment. The down payment is, you know, pretty basic. Everybody probably knows what a down payment is. It could be anything. It's what they work out with the lender. When it comes to lenders, do not get involved in your client's lending as like filling out the application for them or anything in that aspect. You're kind of overstepping bounds and it's out of your level of expertise. You can send them lenders, and what I usually do is you want to send 3. Whatever you send them, you want to send in 3s. So if you send them a landscape person, you're going to send them 3. If you send a lender, you're going to send them 3. And you're going to let them know that, hey, you know, I like them all. Compare their rates. Some lenders can give you better rates or find better rates, and their fees are different. So you want to call 2 or 3 lenders. You don't want to just send them one, because that can cause problems if down the road, you know, they say, well, you only gave me this one lender and, you know, he took advantage of me, so I'm suing you because you didn't tell me more lenders. It's just, you want to send them more than one. You want to send them 3. If it's going to be financed, it can be a third-party finance, which would be a lender. It could be a seller finance, or it could be a loan assumption. And there's addendums to all of that. So this is a third-party finance. They have it checked here, and they tell you what the loan amount is. So I said addendum, so I'm going to tell you the difference between an addendum and an amendment. An addendum is something that goes with the contract. It's going to be all together. An amendment is when you change a contract. When you change an executed contract, you have to amend it. Addendum is additional documents that are submitted over with the contract. So we can look at a third-party finance really quickly. We're not going to go over it, but I just want to show y'all what one is. Okay, so this is the third-party finance addendum. Addendum meaning you need to send that over with the contract. If you're representing a buyer and they have financing, you want to fill this out. You want to send that along with the pre-approval to the seller. With the third-party contract, or with the lenders and the title companies, if you get a contract and it has a third-party financing addendum, call the lender. You know, it's your job to verify this information. Just because it comes over doesn't mean that it's going to be good. You can call the lender and say, hey, you know, I got an offer on whatever address this is. I got an offer. Can you please tell me where y'all stand in this process? You can talk to the lender as much as you want. You can talk to the title company as much as you want. You know, when you submit the title, the executed contract to the title company, you want to stay in constant contact with the title company. You want to call them and say, hey, I'm submitting a contract. You want to make sure you got it. You know, it's coming over. You call them after you send it. Did you get it? If they don't send you the contract receipt, you call them again. You got to keep up with the title company, say, okay, where do we stand in this? And that way you can relay the information to your buyer or your seller. You want to relay the information to your client. And the same with the lender. You know, like some of these lenders, they'll send a pre-approval over, but it has not. They haven't reviewed any kind of papers. They haven't reviewed any kind of documents, and they haven't reviewed like anything when it comes to the people's credit, but they're still giving them a pre-approval. And what's sad is a lot of agents don't read the pre-approval letters, and they don't call and they don't talk to the lenders. And so they're really not doing their job, in my opinion. So this one was an FHA, and it'll tell you the third-party financing. You know, it has the different loans, but we'll get to that at another time. So I just wanted to show y'all what a third-party financing form looks like. Okay, so we're back to the sales price. Okay, and here's another thing is a seller cannot tell you what your down payment has to be. You know, you can have a $0 down payment and financed everything, and you know, the selling agent can't come back and say, oh, your client has to put $10,000 down. You know, no, they can't do that. A lot will try to do that. It's like the earnest money. They'll try to tell you it's a 1% minimum down. There's the seller's agent cannot tell your client what they have to bid or what they have to pay for the property, you know, but a lot of agents will say, well, it's a minimum 1% for earnest money and $100 for the 10-day option, you know, but they can't tell you what your client's offer should be. So for disclosure, number 4 is where you put if you are related to your client. TREC says that it's really only, it says it right here, spouse, parent, or child is a beneficiary, or if you're more than 10% owner of a company or the trust. I like to err on the side of caution, you know, and if they're my cousin or second cousin, or, you know, I will put related to, agent is related to buyer. You know, just you don't have to tell the relationship. If you're an owner agent, we've got a couple of y'all getting ready to sell your own homes. You just put owner agent, you know, but you do have to disclose if it's your house or if you're related to the person. And it's better to err on the side of caution and say, hey, you know, related to the buyer, even if it is your second cousin. So I think it's always good. Earnest money. So earnest money and escrow are two different things. Escrow is the account that the title company holds the funds in. Earnest money is the amount that the buyer puts down to say, hey, I'm interested in this property, and I'm going to put down, this person put down $1,350, which is about 1%. A lot of people say 1% is the standard. You know, you can't say 1% is required. It's just, you know, whatever, 1% is what people put down normally, generally, but it's not the requirement. So this person put down $1,350. Earnest money too. Now, this you will see different ways. What I feel is correct is you put the escrow agent, which is the person. You put the agent's name right here, not the title company. So $1,350 as earnest money to, and then you would have John Doe as escrow agent at, and you have their address. The additional earnest money might be used like if it's a builder, you know, but builders generally have their own contract, and if they don't, you would use the new construction contract. So, you know, the additional earnest money is really not used at all, but it's there, and you would put NA. The title policy, this is where the title company's name goes. So the agent's name goes up here. So it would be John Doe as the escrow agent at Alamo Title Company. So the title policy can be paid by either the seller or the buyer. And you will have so many agents tell you, well, it's normal for the seller to pay for the title policy. I say no, it is not normal. If I'm representing the buyer, I always try to get the seller to pay for it. If I'm representing the seller, I always try to get the buyer to pay for it. That's why they have two different boxes here. You can choose the seller or you can choose the buyer because it's negotiable. And the title policy is normally about 1% of whatever this amount is. Title rates are set, and every title company's title policy rate is going to be the same. Where they differ are the fees that they charge. Every title company charges different fees. So normally the title policy is going to be about 1%, maybe a little less of what the total purchase price is. But don't, if you're representing a buyer, don't fall for the buyer's agent saying, well, it's the seller's title policy. That's what they'll call it. It's the seller's title policy. The seller has to pay for it. No, you know, actually, it's the buyer's title policy, because a title policy is, what time is it? Are we getting close on our limit? We're past, huh? Okay. A title policy is just an insurance policy saying that the title is free and clear of anybody having claims on it. You know, that's all a title policy is. So it's just when your client says, hey, what's a title policy? Do I need it? Yes, you want a title policy, you know, because you want to make sure that there's no clouds on the title, is how the title companies put it. You want to make sure that if it was in a probate, that you know, you are able to get all the heirs of that probate to sign off on the title policy. It's giving me a bad connection. Is everybody still hearing me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the title policy, so really it's basically ensuring that it's a clean title. That's what it is. And then the second part down here will be, that's really about the survey. So if you're using an old survey and the surveyor messed up on the survey boundaries, the title policy normally, it does not cover that. All of this 1 through 8 are exceptions to what the title policy does not cover. So it's the title insurance policy is like a standard insurance, and it tells you it has exclusions, and this is what the exclusions are. And this one down here is for the survey. So if the surveyor messed up on the survey and it needs to, like a foot of your property wasn't included in it, and now there's like a cloud, and you know the surveyor was wrong, the title company won't cover that. But if you amend it to where that survey is covered by the buyer or seller, like the title policy will then cover it, if that makes sense. And this little amendment down here, this covering the shortages on the survey, it's not that much. So if the title policy's 1%, that little amendment is going to be about 5% of that 1%. So like if this title policy is 1,350, whatever 5% is of that is what the shortage coverage would be. The title company has 20 days to issue the title commitment. And it's called a title commitment because they can't issue the policy until it closes and they get paid. So it's a commitment saying, Alexa, stop. That's my timer saying our 30 minutes are up. I don't want to keep you guys too long. But so the commitment is the title company saying, hey, we're going to issue this policy. And they have all sorts of ways of getting out of the 20-day time limit. So I think the survey is going to be the last thing we'll cover today, and then we'll pick up at another point next week, or we'll pick up here next week. And I'll open it for questions after this. This part right here can get you into a lot of trouble. So it says that within 5 days after the effective date of this contract, seller will furnish to buyer and title company, not just buyer, but and title company, seller's existing survey of the property and the residential rural property affidavit promulgated by the Texas Department of Insurance T47 affidavit. If seller fails to furnish the existing survey or affidavit within the time prescribed, buyer shall obtain a new survey at seller's expense. So no matter what you have right here, if this is checked and you do not get the T47 and it has to be notarized with the survey to the title company and the buyer by the 5 days, the seller has to pay for a new survey. If the title company requires it or the lender requires it. But really this says buyer shall obtain a new survey at seller's expense. So even if the title company doesn't require it and the lender doesn't require it, if you did not get that that T47 and the survey to the buyer within the 5 days, the buyer can say, hey, I want a new survey. I don't care if they require it. I want one, and make your seller pay for a survey. So you've got to be careful on your timelines and just make sure you keep track of your timelines. 2 is saying that the buyer will pay for the survey, and 3 is saying that the seller will pay for the survey. But if you know your seller does not have a survey, you do not want to accept a contract that has this check and buyer will pay for a survey if you know your seller doesn't have one and cannot provide that with a T47. You want to go to, 3, saying buyer is going to pay for it and not use 1. But does anybody have any questions?
No.
No. So on the CDA, when I sent the sign-up documents for the brokerage, a CDA, which stands for Commission Disbursement, oh my gosh, help me, what CDA stand for? Dee, Chad? Commission Disbursement Authorization. That's what the A stands for. Okay, so the CDA, I put a lot of blanks to kind of help you keep up with these dates. You're going to have to keep up, like when this is executed, you have to get the earnest money to the title company within 3 days. You've got to get the option fee to the seller within 3 days. It's your job as the realtor. It's not your client's job. And you've got the survey date. And I mean, there's just a lot of dates that you can really mess up and lose your client's earnest money if you don't keep up with those dates. So on the CDA, if you want to get paid, you do not have to have those dates on there, but you do have to have like the main information. You got to have the buyer, the seller, the title company, and the amount. And I need to go back and asterisk the CDA, but the CDAs go to the title company. The title company is the one that pays you. So we were talking about the title policy, and so I just thought I'd throw in CDAs in there and all the dates. It's the forms used to help you keep up with the dates. But next week we will see, we just got to we got halfway through page 2. The rest should go kind of fast because it's a lot of legal stuff. So it's really not as detailed as some of this, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understood about the title policy and the contract and when to use it, when not to use it. So would you use this contract if you have an undeveloped piece of property? No, you very good. You'd use the undeveloped property contract. And so that's about it. We will close it for tonight, and we'll pick up the rest of the 1 to 4 next week.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys for signing on.
You were. It's good of you to do this one.
Oh yeah, I think it's a lot of people have a hard time understanding the different parts of the contract.
Well, they just don't teach it properly in school, so you get thrown to the wolves, and it's serious.
Yeah, and I forgot to point out the buyer. If the buyer fails to deliver the earnest money within the time required, seller may terminate this contract and keep the earnest money, right? Well, no, because he's not delivering it. He may terminate and do remedies under page 15 or paragraph 15. Really, I have never seen anybody go to court. The only option to remedy is to go to mediation and go to court. And I haven't seen anybody do that yet, but you never know.
That's true. There's some jerks out there.
They fight over it.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, even if the contract says, you know, let's say the buyer was wrong and the seller should keep the earnest money, if the buyer refuses to sign off, you know, he can hold up that property from selling forever, and either the seller has to like take him to mediation and fight for it, or just give in and let him have it. You know, it's
Yeah, it's a lot of stress.
It is. But all right.
That's why I recommend seller not to hold earnest money, because the longer they prolong the days, the longer the property is sitting over there. So it's just a waste of time and money.
Yeah. And for our new agents, that was Chad talking. Chad is our trainer, our training manager, our training supervisor. So if you have any questions on the contract, call me or call Chad. I want you to understand it, and you know, don't ever feel like you're bothering either one of us, you know, because that's what we're here for, is to teach you about it. All right, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.